Welcome. Here's the scenario. You have been provided with the following spreadsheet, which contains information on the number of secondary school teachers in Scotland in the UK for the years 2008 to 2020, split by the main subject they teach. The dataset has been filtered to show only the STEM-related subjects. The task is to show the trend in the number of teachers for each subject by year. To do this, I will do some manipulation to the data and then plot the data in a line chart. For the line chart, the x-axis will show the year, the y-axis the number of teachers, and the lines will show the trend for each subject. I will also put a dot at each data point. Let's get started. In RStudio, I have set up an R script and called it stem.r. The file is saved in a folder on my desktop, and my folder is called STEM Teachers. Into that folder, I have also placed the Excel spreadsheet, which I will be using in this project. Back in my R script, I have set my working directory, and then I have loaded library read Excel, as that is the package I will use to read the Excel spreadsheet. I have then created a data frame called teachers, and into teachers I am feeding the Excel spreadsheet using read_xlsx and then the name of the spreadsheet. If I now run these lines of code, in the global environment, you will see that the teacher's data frame has loaded, and it contains 6 observations or rows and 14 variables or columns. If I now click on teachers, I can view the information within the data frame. I can see the data and all looks good. Returning back to my R script, as I would like the x-axis to show all the years, I require all the years to be in one column. And to do that, I will use a pivot on the existing data frame. As I would like to pivot, I'm going to use a function from the tidyr package. And to do that, in my R script, underneath library read Excel, I am going to load library bracket tidyr, and then run that line of code to load the package. Once the package is loaded, I can now start pivoting. I'd like to alter my existing data frame, so I am going to put teachers, and into teachers I will feed pivot_longer, and I'm using pivot longer because for this data frame I'm looking for the data frame to become narrower and the number of rows to increase. It's becoming longer. Then opening brackets, and I put in the name of my current data frame, which is teachers, comma, then calls equals, and here I will create a list of the years, and to do that I will put in names, bracket, teachers, come outside my bracket, and then put a square bracket. I'm now going to go back to my teachers data frame to explain the next bit. So in teachers, as you can see, 2008 is the second column in my data frame, and 2020, if I hover over it, you can see it's in column 14. So if I go back now to my R script, I am saying that I want to create a column with the names which is in the teacher's data frame from columns 2 to 14. I come outside of my square bracket and put a comma. I need to give my new column a name, so I say names_2 equals, and in double quote marks I will type year, the name of my column, comma, and then values 2 equals, and I need to create another new column to hold the values which are currently in each of the year columns. So that's, in other words, it's a column to hold the number of teachers. So I will just call that column number. If I now run this line of code, over in the global environment, you will see we now have 78 observations and 3 variables. And if I click on teachers to see my data frame, all subjects are now in one column, the year is now in one column, and the number of teachers is now in a column. This means I can now create my line chart. So going back to my R script, back in my R script, as I will use the package ggplot2 to create my plot or diagram, I need to load that package in. So under my library tidyr, I will put library bracket ggplot2 and then click run to load the package. Returning to my code, I need to give my diagram a name, so I will call it lines. And into lines, I need to tell lines it is going to be a plot or a diagram. So I type in ggplot brackets. In my diagram, I would like to show the trend lines, but I also would like to show each data point. This means that effectively I need to create 2 charts, one which will sit on top of the other. So I will create the lines and then add the dots on top of the lines. As I am effectively putting 2 diagrams onto one, I am looking for both of them to have the same x-axis and both of them to have the same y-axis. Therefore, when I'm loading up the aesthetics for the chart, I'm going to put them inside ggplot so that both the line and the dot can access the same information. It will all again become clearer in a moment. Into ggplot, I need to tell it where to find the data. So data equals teachers, comma. Then I need to load the aesthetics. So to do that, I do AES bracket, and I say that for the x-axis, I would like to show the year, so x equals year. For the y-axis, y equals, and I would like to show the number of teachers. So that's found in our number column. And then the contents within the diagram is going to come from the subject column. And to use that column, I type in group equals subject. Okay, so I've told lines it is going to be a plot. Now I need to tell it what to plot onto the plot. So I say lines, my diagram name, and into lines I'm going to feed lines because I'm looking to bring in the current lines plot, and onto that I'm going to add a line. So I need to put geom underscore line bracket and then AES, and I would like my lines to have a colour for each subject, so I'm going to type colour equals subject. The reason I'm putting the colour in here and not in the ggplot line is because I would like the option at a later date for potentially my lines and my dots to be of different colours. Now, all we need to say is display our diagram, and to do that, I just type lines. I now run these 3 lines of code. My diagram loads. I have the year along the x-axis, the number of teachers down the y, and I have a trend line for each of my 6 topics. So all looks good. Let's now go back to the code and add in the dots. So underneath the geom line, I type lines, the name of my diagram, and into lines, I want to feed the diagram as it currently appears. So I do lines, and then I add onto that geom underscore point, because I want to create the dots. I would like the dots to be the same colour as the subjects, so I feed in AES bracket colour equals subject. Again, this is giving me the option at a later date to change the colour of just the dots. If I now run these 4 lines of code, my plot renders and I have lines and I have a dot at each data point. To help the user be able to read the diagram more effectively, I'm going to add some labels. So to do that, I say onto my diagram lines, I want to add the current diagram as it stands, and onto that I'm going to add labs, bracket. I'd like to put a title, so I put title equals, double quote marks, and inside the double quote marks I will put secondary school teachers by main STEM subject taught. I come outside my double quotes and put a comma. I'd like to add a subtitle, so I type in subtitle equals, and again inside double quotes I will type for Scotland, UK, come outside my double quote marks again, put a comma, and I'm now going to put this onto a new line just so you can read this easier. I don't need to make any changes to my x-axis. I'm happy that it says year, but for my y-axis I'd like to make it clear that it relates to the number of teachers. So I put y equals number of teachers, come outside my double quote marks, put a comma, and I would like to add a caption to the bottom of the diagram explaining where I sourced the data. So caption equals inside double quote marks, and my caption will read, source is the data supplied under an OGL or Open Government Licence by the Scottish Government. If I now run my lines code again, and if I click zoom to see a larger view of the diagram, the title has appeared, the subtitle has appeared, the number of teachers on the y-axis has appeared, and at the bottom I have a caption. The next step I will take is to make a few changes to the theme of the diagram. So if I go back to my R script, again above my final lines line I will type in lines, the name of my diagram, and into lines I would like to feed the lines diagram as it currently stands and add on to that theme. Open brackets. The first thing I would like to do is remove the grey background to the diagram. To do that, I type in panel.background equals, and then element blank. And that will remove the background. One point to note is that when I remove the grey background, the white X and Y lines will no longer be visible, and I would like the Y-axis lines to remain visible. To do that, I type in panel.grid major Y equals, and then element underscore line, then colour equals grey, which is the colour I would like my new line to be, come outside the double quote marks, and I would like my line to be dotted. So I just type in line type equals, inside double quote marks, dotted. Then a comma. I will move this down onto a new row so that it's easier for you now to see. And the last thing on the theme I'm going to change is I would like to move my caption to the left hand side and make it italic. To do that, I just type in plot.caption equals, and then element underscore text. Inside the brackets, I type hjust equals 0. And by putting that in, I'm saying I want to justify the text to the left. 0 relates to left. After the 0, I put a comma, and to make it italic, I just type in face equals, inside double quote marks, italic. If I now run my lines code again, and then press zoom, you can see that our theme changes have taken effect. I have dotted lines, although they're a bit pale perhaps in the recording of this video. Maybe I should have done them a bit darker, but that's something I can change. I can go back into my line colour and change it perhaps to dark grey. My caption is now on the left and the grey background has been removed. One thing to notice is that on the y-axis, when it comes to the numbers, I would like them to be comma separated. So I would like this to say 2, 000. And that is what I will now change. So going back to my R script, to add the comma, I need to load another package. So if I go back up to the top and in library, I'm going to add the scales package. I run that line of code to load the package. Now back down in my code, I type lines and I feed into lines, add on, scale, underscore y, underscore continuous. And inside here, I put labels equals comma. If I now run my code again, you can see that the y-axis is now comma separated. So that's my diagram completed for the initial task to show the trend in the number of secondary school teachers by subject and by year. We may have completed our task, but I would like to just take this project one step further and add a pop-up box which appears when a user hovers over one of the data points. And to do that, I'm going to use the Plotly package. So back up underneath library scales, I will do library bracket Plotly and then press run to load the Plotly package. Back down in my code, I type lines, the name of my diagram, and into lines I feed ggplot2, then brackets, and inside my brackets I put the name of my diagram, which is lines. Now if I run all my lines code and click zoom to see a bigger diagram, you will find that if the user now hovers over one of the data points, there's a pop-up box which tells them the year and the number of teachers. With Plotly, there's more functionality, so if I go up to the right-hand side of the diagram, and rather than have this one mark shown, if I click on the double one, now when I hover over a data point, it shows me the comparable figures for all of the subjects. So that's something you may find helpful. I'll change it back to the 1 just now. The other feature of Plotly is I can remove some of the trend lines. So for instance, if I wanted to remove the mathematics line, I just go to the subject, legend, mathematics and click. And the mathematics line disappears. To reappear, I just click it again. So therefore, if you want to present the diagram with just 1 or 2 lines shown, clicking the subjects in the legend will turn them on and off. There is a lot more to Plotly, so feel free to explore some of these other options in the Plotly pane here. A few points to note though is that Plotly does not provide an exact copy of the ggplot which we created previously. If you notice, my subtitle has disappeared and my caption has disappeared. Also, my y-axis lines are no longer dotted, it's now solid. If you wanted these options which you had previously in the ggplot, then you would need to go into Plotly and add them via Plotly. If I hover over a dot, you will see that subject appears twice. And the reason for that is that in the aesthetics, we have year, number, and then for group and colour, we have subject. So because we've got 4 items in the aesthetics, 4 items come in, and in this instance, mathematics appears twice. If you prefer the subject not to appear twice, one option is in Plotly to amend the tooltip to just show the year and the number. There is so much more that you can explore with ggplot2 and some of the other packages such as Plotly than that which I've explored in this video. In this video's description, I will add links to some helpful guides. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you would like to hear more from me, please click the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.